Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are still working on Measure for Measure. I know, a whopping 3 days later, but we're already like halfway through Act 2 on it, just on day 3 of this play. So anyway, today we get to hear from Borachio in what the folio calls Act 2, because there are no scene delineations, but a lot of other versions call this Act 2, Scene 2. And this is where the scene delineations are going to be a little bit helpful for our sakes, because they'll help with recaps and breaking things up before we get to tomorrow's monologue, which is in what a lot of versions call Act 2, Scene 3. Anyway, we're in Act 2, Scene 2, and the stuff that has happened already. Don John and Don Pedro were fighting a bit of a war. Don Pedro won. Don John is a little bit miffed about that, even though Don John is also staying at Leonato's place, Leonato being the governor of Messina. There was a great big party last night, like a masquerade ball, whereat Don Pedro wooed Hero in the name of Claudio and then went to talk to Leonato so that Hero could be married to Claudio. Borachio and Don Pedro and their other henchmen had sort of hatched a plan to try to make it look like Don Pedro was wooing Hero for himself. And for a brief moment that it worked, and Claudio was like, no, I want nothing to do with Hero. But then Don Pedro came in and was like, I want her for you, so take her, she's yours. And he's like, okay, let's get married as quick as we can. And they're like, no, we got to wait a few days for you to get married. And Don Pedro and a few of the other guys decide that while they're waiting for the wedding, in order to pass the time, they're going to try to make Benedick and Beatrice fall in love. Beatrice is Leonato's niece. Benedick was fighting on Don Pedro's side in this little skirmish that happened. And Beatrice and Benedick have a very long history of verbal sparring with one another. And both of them are proud professed bachelors. And at this party, Beatrice was talking to Benedick and knew she was talking to Benedick, but was saying some really mean things, like that Benedick is the court jester and all sorts of stuff like that, and yada yada. So Benedick left in kind of a weird mood. But there was also a lot of other potential wooing going on. Antonio and Ursula, Borachio and Margaret, all of this kind of stuff. Anyway, so at the end of Act 2, Scene 1, or the end of what we covered yesterday, Hero and Claudio are going to get married. Don Pedro and crew are going to try to make Beatrice and Benedick fall in love. And we get now to Act 2, Scene 2, that's Don John and Borachio and the henchmen and all of that sort of thing. And they're a little miffed, or at least Don John is a little miffed that his plan to screw up this wedding didn't work. Because keep in mind, he was like just fighting a battle, if not a war, with these people, and now he has to pretend like everything's hunky-dory and all that sort of stuff. He still kind of missed that he lost that whole thing. So he wants to just stir up some trouble, and Borachio comes up with this idea. He's like, I can do it. I can mess with this whole wedding thing, and I can make it not even happen. And Don John is like, what? Seriously, you can't do this. And he's like, oh yeah, I can fix this whole thing. And he's like, how? And Borachio says, go then, find me a meet hour to draw on Pedro and the Count Claudio alone. Tell them that you know that Hero loves me. Intend a kind of zeal both to the prince and Claudio, as in a love your brother's honor, who hath made this match, and his friend's reputation, who is thus like to be cozened with the semblance of a maid that you have discovered thus. They will scarcely believe this without trial. Offer them instances which shall bear no less likelihood than to see me at her chamber window, hear me call Margaret Hero, hear Margaret term me Claudio, and bring them to see this the very night before the intended wedding. For in the meantime, I will so fashion the matter that Hero shall be absent, and there shall appear such seeming truths of Hero's disloyalty that jealousy shall be called assurance, and all the preparation overthrown. So the plan as they have it laid out is Borachio, since he's already been flirting with Margaret, and Margaret is kind of on board with this flirting with Borachio thing. Margaret is one of Hero's like ladies in waiting or gentlewomen or handmaidens, that kind of a thing. He's going to go to Hero's bedroom window and stand outside and call to Margaret, but pretend that she's Hero, and Margaret will be in on this. So he'll be calling like, Hero, Hero, but actually it'll be Margaret that comes to the window, and the two of them can flirt, and Margaret will be instructed to call him Claudio instead of Borachio, so that if other people just happened to be passing by, you know, people like Don Pedro, they would see what looked like Claudio wooing Margaret. Sorry. Yeah, they would see the wrong people wooing the wrong people at the window. Because Hero would then say that she wasn't there at the window to be wooed, so she wasn't talking to anybody, but somebody outside saw Claudio talking to somebody in her window, and this whole thing is a setup to make it look like Hero is unfaithful. So another switcheroo here is going to happen. We've already had a bit of a game of telephone going on with them trying to say that it's not going to be Claudio that's wooing Hero, that it's going to be Don Pedro that's wooing Hero. But now that the wedding is like on, they're going to try to get the wedding called off based on Hero's disloyalty and lack of virginity, lack of purity, sort of a thing. So nice cheery way to spend your time and to you know, do things while you're in the house of the man who just defeated you, or the friend of the man who just defeated you, all of that sort of thing. So things are getting messy, and we needed more to go on in order to keep this play going than just now they're getting married, because things got sorted out after the masked party. So anyway, fun stuff, mistaken identities, and tomorrow we get to hear from Benedict in Act 2, Scene 3, as is known in a lot of versions, but just Act 2 as is known in the folio, because he has some more thoughts on what Beatrice had to say about him when they were both wearing masks, and she knew she was talking to him, but he doesn't know that she knew that she was talking to him. Anyway, fun stuff. I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.